a stereotypically female activity, such as sewing, be an appropriate medium through which to tackle male loneliness and isolation? This is a question that return guest and Great British Sewing Bee finalist Tony Ray has been tasked to help answer. In this episode, Tony tells us about the pilot of an awesome endeavour he's involved in called Thread Brothers. We also get into the weeds about traditionally gendered crafts and spaces, and explore how sewing can help us push back against ageism. We'll get into it all very shortly, so don't go anywhere for a couple of minutes. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 18 years and I'm the creator and the host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you join me in this journey. Hi lovely, how is it going? Thank you for pressing play on this episode. I know it won't disappoint. So I've been receiving some lovely feedback on the most recent podcast episodes, Kat's conversation with Justice McNeil from Thread and Sprout, and my conversation last week with Julie Hinks, in which she answered some listeners' sewing questions. A couple of awesome patrons of the podcast had a couple of excellent helpful points to add that I'd love to share. So, patron Fran wrote, in episode 233, there was a question about hints and tips for pin tucks. One way I have slightly stiffened fabric to make it easier to do pin tucks is to use spray starch. Spray it liberally, then allow it to dry or iron. Works a treat. And patron Debbie wrote, in episode 233, there was a question about hand sewing knit fabrics. Louisa Owen Sonstrom's lovely hand sewing book has a section on how to sew knits by hand. So thanks heaps, Fran and Debbie, for those great additions. Speaking of patrons, you saw that coming, didn't you? I want to say a big thanks to Rachel, who signed back up to support the podcast financially after having to take a break for a bit. Financial support of the podcast always seems to take a hit over the summer months, I've noticed, and this year has been no exception, so it's extra appreciated. If you feel like you could help keep this podcast afloat to the tune of the cost of a cup of coffee each month, or more or less, please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread, where you can sign up super quickly and easily. I'm literally about to schedule 2 new social sewing sessions that take place via Zoom for patrons. So if you are into that kind of thing, then now's a great time to sign up. Right, so let's get cracking with the episode. I'm so happy to have Tony back on the podcast. He is a whirlwind of activity and exciting ideas, so it was a real joy to pin him down for an hour and hear about his exciting new venture, and to get his thoughts on the topics of gender and ageism in craft. So until next week, when we have another very cool conversation brought to us by Kat, which will also be the last episode for a couple of weeks because I'm taking a little summer break. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and those in the wider global community who could use our help. Have a great week and make sure you shoehorn some creative time in there if at all possible, and enjoy. So I've seen you fleetingly, I feel like, recently at the various shows. But beyond that, we spoke a couple of years ago, didn't we, for the podcast?
We did speak a couple of years ago on the podcast, which was great. And it is a couple of years, yeah. I suppose time is relative to your age, isn't it? But it does go super, super quick. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of years still. It doesn't seem to be letting off at all.
Totally. So just to get into it, to set it up for those who haven't been listening to the podcast for a couple of years, can you please remind us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Yeah, I'm Tony Ray. I'm a postman and a maker and a content creator, but most people know me better as that old bloke in the woolly hat from Series 9 of the Great British Sewing Bee, who managed to get through to the final. I live in Bude in North Cornwall with my wife and my girls. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
So, story so far, when we spoke a couple of years ago for episode 124, which is wild because this will probably be episode 234, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good going.
Yeah. So you were telling us about your experimental and creative approach to sewing and sourcing textiles. So, as anyone who follows you on Instagram can see, that you have been really busy and really productive as a maker. And you also seem to be like here, there, and everywhere, like doing sewing events and teaching. And now you've also set up another endeavour called Thread Brothers, which we're going to get to shortly. But how has the last couple of years been for you? Because has it felt as busy and productive as it's looked from the outside?
I have been very busy and productive, but that's typically my life. There's not much air in my day. I tend to try and fill every last bit of it. In regards to my making, yeah, I'm still. I mean, you never finish sewing, do you? You never finish. There's, you can't tick a box and go, right, I've done that. Let's move on to the next bit.
No, because it's always iterations, isn't it? Like, okay, I like that, but now I'd like to do it like this, or what if it was in that fabric, or what if I did the pockets in a different way, or.
Most definitely, yes, most definitely, and that's exactly it. I've always got my eyes open when I'm going. I never really go shopping, but I'll go to the shops with my eyes open, looking for those little details that maybe you don't naturally come up with on your own and think, oh, actually, no, that would work there and there and there. Just recently been up to London for the weekend, and I just have always got my notes app out and just typing in things that, I quite like the look of that, quite like the look of that. Fabric wise, yeah, still using lots of duvets and things that I can scrounge, beg and borrow, to be honest. Seems to work quite well for me.
But that was something that really shone through for you, like when you were doing the sewing bit and since, like, yeah, you just don't have that kind of prescriptive, like, I have to buy fabric that is in a fabric shop, like you've always seemed to be much more open. But also you have a real sense of detail and an eye for detail, which I think it's so, especially for menswear, I guess, when the details are kind of make or break on a lot of garments, aren't they?
Yeah, thank you. You're right, they are. With menswear, you're pretty much stuck with, dare say, a jacket, a shirt, and a pair of trousers, and longer or shorter versions of those things. So it is about the details, whether that's a pattern placement or whether it's a slightly angled pocket, or just things that would be different to you're off the shelf or you're ready to wear, whatever you want to call it.
Totally. So when I was studying fashion, it was in the kind of mid to late 90s, and streetwear was massive, So for me, like those kind of, and that was really what fueled my passion for garment making. It wasn't stuff that was like catwalk. I've never been into that kind of thing. It was like streetwear, clever details, clever placements, those kind of things that really fueled me. And I think that that's what I really enjoy in your work, because I see that you're on the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, no, cheers. Streetwear is a huge influence on me. It's probably where my love of clothing and fashion comes from. The whole, I think we maybe touched on this very slightly last time, or a couple of years ago, not sure I remember, was the whole thing about style tribes, and streetwear is representative of style tribes. Finding your tribe, finding your people, finding your gang, essentially. And you can do that in a very greyish, beige way, and just look like you're going to compete in the Olympics with sportswear. Or you can go for something completely different. You can go for one-of-ones. You can go for modified. You can go for cut and shuts, which it seems to be becoming more prevalent in streetwear now. I get a lot of inspiration from Korean and Japanese designers, be it workwear, be it that whole city boy look, just big oversized stuff, which is a real throwback to the 90s. I loved the 90s were it for me.
Yeah, same. That's where I got my love of garments and clothing was for me, and music obviously, but it was how interacted with culture. Became figure out who I was.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it's just finding your thing, and I'm a big fan of if you find what you like and stick with it. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't. Yes, you move a little bit with the times. I never did tight jeans, skinny jeans. So I can never see that happening on me. But it's just one of those things where you particularly as a maker, just being able to make exactly what you want. It's just fantastic. I mean, that's what. I mean, there are many reasons why I make. That's one of them. Yeah, it's just the best feeling being able to just, if not make something. If you're not making something original, if your budget doesn't fit your style, but dare I say, you can make what you could see as couture, but you can make at home. Once you've got those basic skills or that understanding of the engineering of garments or fabric, that makes it sound a bit fancier than it is. It's not really that fancy, is it? But if you see something, roughly how it's made, and just to be able to recreate something like that at home, but making it more you, I just think is incredible.
It totally is. Like, I've developed a bit of a passion for a certain French brand.
Right.
There's no way in my world I'd be able to afford them.
Yeah.
But and also, like, you know, you get to know your body, don't you? So for me, like, the size that I am on the top isn't what I am around the waist and hips. So even if I could afford those things, they probably wouldn't sit very well on me. But I can make something very similar that is to my proportions and to my specifications. And it's just that power, you know?
No, it's exactly that. And not only that, as you get older, you do change. And if there's a style that you like, you can keep making that thing to your current size and shape without having to worry about it not fitting ever again. Or maybe if you got a lump or a bump in the wrong place, you can kind of cover that up a little bit because you're making it yourself.
I know, it's magic.
I know it is magic. It's fabric magic.
So one of my questions was and you've already answered it. Are you still a postman?
I am, yes. Yeah. Still a postie.
Are you still doing the same hours? Like, how on earth do you fit everything in?
Yeah. When I say I'm still a postman, there are something big change. As I said, there's always big changes in big businesses, aren't there? But there are some changes going on at the moment, which may change my hours, etc., which will be a problem.
Is it to do with the second class post?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all that. It is to do with all that. And so, I'm lucky. And I find myself lucky to be able to work 3 days a week. So I work a week on, week off, essentially. If you look at my content, you can almost see the pattern of that. Where you see he goes quiet for a week and then he goes absolutely full on mad and then he's off for a week.
Yeah. I think you can see for my podcast, it's like, is it a week where I'm doing, because you know I've got another podcast as well. Is it a week where I'm doing the 2 episodes, or is it just the week where it's just check your thread? You can see, depending on how busy I am. Yeah.
So similar to me. The high content weeks are when I'm not posting. But I absolutely love that job. It's just a wonderful community based job.
Nice.
It's based in the centre of the small town I live in, which is Bude in North Cornwall. And it's just nice to see everybody every day. Just have a wander. It's not just having a wander around. It's a lot more than that. But
sure, yeah. Just to be clear.
It's not as easy as it used to be. And luckily, my local fabric shop's on my round as well. So that's all good.
Do you know what? I think you probably get similar things for doing that as I get working part-time at Fabric Godmother. Yeah. You know, I get to rock on up, I get to see my friends, have a chin wag, I have to be somewhere for a bit, and I also have access to fabric.
Yep, all that. Mine's my local fabric shop and all the charity shops in town, so that's a win.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, right, let's get cracking because I want to hear about Thread Brothers. So can you please tell me what it is, what's the goal, whose idea was it? How did it come to be? How's it going? Basically, tell me everything, please.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Thread Brothers is an initiative that was originally come up by a guy called Dr. Tobit Emmons, who works for NHS Devon Partnership Trust. He's the Associate Director of Research and Development there. He's incredibly well renowned, actually, working for the National Institute of Health and Care research, specifically in mental health research. And again, more niche than that currently with men's mental health research. It was a couple of years, but I think it might have almost be a couple of years, 18 months ago. He got in touch with me and said, this is something that I'm really keen to get going. Think of something along the lines of a men's shed. Which are quite...
can you explain for international listeners what that is? Yeah,
Men's Shed is a group which invites men in to do things, basically. Just come and do things together. And typically it's woodwork and metalwork and electrical. And they fix things for the local community. They might build fences, might build benches, sheds. They might fix electrical items for people in like a repair cafe scenario. But the underlying thing there with Men's Shed is to bring men together, because I know people think blokes always go to the pub and that's it. A lot of blokes don't go to the pub. A lot of blokes don't go to the pub. A lot of men don't see that many other men as well. So it's a way of getting people together. But Men's Shed in itself, or particularly in this area, tends to happen at 11:30 on a random Thursday, let's just say. So it's a daytime activity. Although there are others around the country, so I can't talk for those, unfortunately. And typically attracts people that can attend those sessions, which is great. So the idea that Tobit came up with was because he's also a maker, which is fantastic.
What's his medium?
He does a lot of bags, cycling luggage, nice. For bikepacking, backpacking, etc. Really, really nice stuff. And there's now venturing into clothing as well, which is great.
Is that under your influence?
I don't know. Let's say yes. Tobit,
yes.
Yeah, Tobit, you're listening. Yes, I'm your
Till
influence.
he denies it, we're going with yes.
Yeah, we're going with this. So he got in touch and said, we want to do this, think about doing this thing. Would you like to be involved? They're looking for a tutor, a facilitator. The idea behind it was that with men's shed, as I say, it's traditional men's activities, let's say, no matter what you think about that, that's unfortunately the way the world is sometimes.
Sure, which we'll touch upon in shortly, but yeah.
Cool. So woodwork and engineering, the idea with sewing, because we talked about this before, is that it would be a complete leveler. So anybody that came to the session, most probably wouldn't have a fat lot of experience. So they were there to learn, or there, to understand what it was all about, go away with a new skill. So there wouldn't be typically anybody in the room initially that would come in all, I'm trying to think of how to do it without, a little bit, there's no peacocking, there's nobody that's going to be the shining star of this. Oh, look, everybody, I've been doing this for donkey's years. Come and have a look.
Or some people feeling that they're subsequently on the back foot.
Yeah, that's it. So the only person in the room that should know what they're on about is the bloke at the front telling them what to do. So that's which in this instance would be me. And again, so the idea of that is getting blokes, fellas together and just literally seeing what happens. Tobit said within his research, he found it really, really difficult to get men involved with mental health research. They don't have a problem getting women in to do mental health research, but they have a great problem getting men in. So this will be an ideal place to get people into an unfamiliar situation, to learn a new skill, but also within that room would be a facilitator that would be able to observe people interacting with each other. And this has all been explained to the guys, as we've done this. And nobody's getting there. Nobody's getting you to sit in a circle and tell you what's happened that week. It's not a talking therapy group. It's just come along and have a go at something. So that was the initial idea, and we went through a funding cycle initially.
Sure, I was going to ask, how is it funded?
Yeah, to see how we could do that, and we were unsuccessful the first time around.
Oh, you're joking! This seems like such an absolute godsend idea.
So we were unsuccessful the first time around, and then we went through the second round, asking for considerably less, to do it as a trimmed down pilot rather than jump. I think the initial one we jumped both feet in and said, "This is what we're going to want to do." So second one we said, "Look, Tobit was really keen on getting this going," and so went in for a lot less, and working with Open Up, who are the charity that raises money for Devon Partnership Trust, specifically for people with either mental health, learning disability, or neurodivergent needs, making their life better. So there's a charity that works with the NHS down here that does that. So Open Up were kind enough to give us some money in that round of funding, just a small amount to cover the venue and bits and pieces and all that sort of stuff. So essentially it's free for the people that attend as well.
Brilliant.
Which is great. So that funding cycle gave us that money from Open Up. We then teamed up with an organisation called Wellmore, who also within that Devon Partnership circle, essentially. But they run community initiatives on North East Dartmoor, just getting people together to support their health and well-being, in that area, because it's very rural around the Dartmoor area, as it is where I am in North Cornwall. Only small towns dotted around, lots of farming communities, etc. So we went through a funding cycle that didn't work. Went through a second funding cycle that did work, and that's where Tobit said, "Right, we're going to go now." One of the funny things about when he first got in touch with me was he said, "Look, I'm going to be very open and honest. You're my second choice."
Oh.
I said, "Oh, okay."
How could you be the second choice? You're made for this.
Well, I know, but wait for it. He said because he'd known Patrick Grant before.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, fine. I was going to say that's the only other dude, surely.
Yeah. So Tobit was running TED sessions down here in Exeter, and Patrick was doing some TED talks down there. So they met initially a good number of years ago. So it was quite amusing. He said, "Look, you're my second choice." Patrick said, Patrick was up to other things, so you're the next one. You're the only other high profile.
Also, you're more local as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Perfect. So that was it. So that's the setup. That's where we got the funding and who we've had to work with to get this done. And once we got that bit of funding, I then went out with my scrounging bucket to try and get some resources for us to use. Now, Brother had already given me some machines to use as a men's group with a men's group. I just hadn't found that men's group as such. And then once we did have the men's group, William Whiteley up in Sheffield gave us loads of shears and scissors. Rainbow Fabrics are really generous. So Easy, Hemline, Quilted Bear. I mean, yeah, lots of. I mean, the sewing community is fantastic, isn't it? It really is. You know, if you say, I'm doing something. Can you help? That there's always somebody there, and they were. So we've got all these bits and pieces now, which every week we have a go at something new. But yeah.
Amazing. So where is the venue? How did you find where to actually host it?
Yeah, so that was to do with Wellmore. So Wellmore being the community initiatives group that we tagged onto. So we had the funding. We went to Wellmore. Wellmore had a space. In fact, it's actually a wall loft. It's called. So it's a lovely space in a town called Moreton Hampstead, which is in northeast Dartmoor. It's quite a creative area, actually. It's lovely. It's about an hour or so from where I live, but then again, everywhere's an hour from where I live.
And it's so spread out down there.
And it is. So an hour's just standard. So Wellmore found the venue for us, and they helped facilitate getting in there. And yeah, they pop in and out. So we're working for their community there. So they also helped with the administration in regards to getting people enrolled. It was a case of they just put out on their networks, who wants to have a go at this. And yeah, we had 6 guys. In fact, it was oversubscribed, to be honest, because we only had 6 places to start with, because this is just a pilot, and the space is only is big enough currently for that size. And we wanted to start with 6 because that's the only amount of machines I had. I didn't want anybody to have to put their hand in their pocket. So I didn't want any barriers, basically.
Sure.
So I said, right, everything's here. Just come along and just give it a go. You never know. I get so much from sewing, from making, sewing, whatever we're calling it today. Let's say making. I get so much from making, and I just want personally to see if other people will get as much from it as I do. Other blokes will get from it what I get. It's where I go to slow down. I know I'm speaking a million miles an hour again. Every time me and you talk, we speak it's a million miles an hour.
But also because I feel like I've only got you feel like you're kind of already moving elsewhere. I'm like, Tony.
I know. So, but that's indicative of how fast my mind works. That's what happens, isn't it? So I need to slow down quite often, and it's also a way of forcing me to slow down. If I sit at my machine, as makers, we know why we do it. We like it because we like the tangible thing at the end, but we also like to just sit there and put things through the machine or thread a needle. We like the coffee to go cold. We like time to disappear. And that's why we make.
We get in a flow state, yeah.
Yeah, you get that flow state. And I just wanted to see if other people can get that from zero to getting into it, really. So, yeah, by not putting any barriers up and having everything there meant that we only could keep it at 6. So Wellmore found the guys for us, and it's a fantastic intergenerational group.
Great. So what were the criteria for the attendees? Just male identifying?
It was there wasn't any criteria. Yeah. Would you like to come and learn a new skill? There was nothing more than that, really. It's, we've got a new thing starting up for Moreton Hampstead have got great community groups already. They've got a really successful men's shed. I'm not sure if it's called a men's shed, but let's use that as an umbrella term. And lots of art groups and knitting groups. And in fact, they've just started up a knitting group for men there as well, which is fantastic. So something's obviously working there. So yeah, so it's just a great place to be. And that's it. There are a number of creatives, but it's also incredibly rural. So there wasn't really a criteria such as said, would you just like to have a look? But yes, from the people that we've got, and it being, we wanted it to be intergenerational, intentionally, to be honest. That doesn't mean that we've curated the people within the group. We've taken first come, first served. It just so happens that we've struck lucky and wanted it intergenerational because there are some young men that don't have older men in their lives, and there are some older men that don't have young men in their lives. So it's very difficult to learn how to talk to both ends of the spectrum. So we've got a couple of youngest lads. And say lads, they're all lads to me because I'm 57 years old now, for goodness sake. So there's some young lads, there's some retirees, there's some working age men. There's a really good mix of people. Some with a very small experience of sewing, maybe have had a go at some point, because a lot of people have, a lot of men have, a lot have had a go. They've seen the machine there and had a go,
or there was a lesson at school once.
Or there was a lesson at school when they did that at school. That's the thing. So yeah, it's just great to have that great mix. It's just great just to see people getting on as well. Now, I'm probably stealing your thunder and taking away all of your questions as I'm talking.
No, you're making it absolutely breezy. I'm like, yep, tick, it's tick that, it's tick that.
Cool. Well, the idea also with the sewing group is, and not something that I'd ever realised until I got involved with it, is when you're sat at a sewing machine, if you're in, I mean, it's a bit weird to be in another room sewing. Is odd because you do it at home. You do it on your own. It's a thing. I subjected myself to 10 weeks of it on the TV, and I learned from that the conversations that you have sat at a sewing machine is not different to those incredible conversations you have when you're in a car. Bear with me on this.
No, I completely get this.
The best conversations you have are when you're not looking somebody in the eye and you're both looking in the same direction and something else is keeping your attention, but the words are just coming out, the words are just flowing.
I think like food prep is a similar one, isn't it?
Prepping that's food it. Together. Yeah. So it's for whatever reason that deeper conversations come out of those situations, and you find that exactly the same thing when you're in a group with people sewing. If they're sat at a machine and their focus is just there and they're facing in one direction, but they're talking, that's when the words that they normally wouldn't say are coming out. So yeah, that's something that really, really works.
Is that something you've seen then in Thread Brothers?
Yeah. I definitely think it is. Nothing's in a performative way. It's all just it's just all happening, and the people are very vulnerable because it's brand new skills. You know, they're machines that people are scared to death they're going to break because they cost somebody else some money and things like that. You know, it's like it's not gung ho. It's kind of like, well, I've stopped it. Can we now have a look at see what this next bit is? Obviously, I just talk nonstop for 90 minutes, and I'm sure they're quite glad of the break when we finish. But
I can go back to being isolated now.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, quite possibly. But yeah, it's there that the conversations do come different, and sometimes somebody will just say one thing, and then it'll just elaborate into something else. It's just a really good space just to have a chat, and that's starting to happen now. We've been going be week 7 this week, and it's quite obvious that everyone's relaxed into it now, and
nice.
I know that because I kind of set tasks each week to try and just incorporate some different techniques. For example, the first week all we did was sew paper. I had dotted lines on paper and we were just following that through, making pivoting, turning, doing curves. Second week we did a very simple tote bag, but of course and then explaining the techniques that we were doing and relating them to something else. So a tote bag, for example, is the very first hem that you'll ever make because you double fold the top, and that's a hem. So if you think of that on the bottom of a trouser, or if you think of it on a T-shirt sleeve or a shirt sleeve, that's a hem. So now you can go and cut something off and fold it up and you've done a hem. You know, just what a real world example is of doing these little things. Then we made a pair of pajamas following a pattern. Then we made a boxy bag, which was a lined wash bag essentially with a zip. So we would introduce the zips, introduce the working blind completely inside out, trusting the process. You know, that ta-da moment when you do a bag and it's like, that actually worked. How did you know? So yeah, we're just introducing all of these little skills as we go along, building on the week before. Where I was going with this is, you know that it's working in regards to people talking and enjoying it because we don't get to finish what we're making. In the earlier sessions, it was like, okay, head down, crack on. I've got to do this. This is a task. But then it's becoming more of just turning up and have a bit of a sew and let's just see what he's going to have to get us make this week. And if we don't finish, we don't finish. And they're taking it away and they're bringing it back the next week. Yeah, so we're currently there with week 7 this week, which is the end of this first pilot block. We're going to take a break for the summer. Tobit and his guys are obviously going to look at what they've got from a data perspective. Tobit in particular does a fantastic Substack write-up after each of the sessions.
Could you send me a link?
I will definitely send you a link because it's
lovely. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic read, and it kind of opens it out. I'm a maker, and I've got maker's eyes. I don't see all these other things that happen because the other things that are happening isn't my area of expertise. Obviously, there are people there where it is their area of expertise. But yeah, I'll definitely show you that his Substack because it's a fantastic read every week. I look forward to it. I really do. Because it opens my eyes into just learning about how people interact and just the things that are just maybe a castaway comment for some people are everything to others. It's just, it's brilliant. So we're going to have a break over the summer, and regroup again afterwards, and we're going to run another 6 weeks, and then that will be our pilot completed. So once the pilot's completed, we are going to be looking to go through the funding cycle again with some experience and some objective evidence in our back pocket. There are already a couple of charities that have expressed an interest in the funding. Some people sat on some amounts of money that they're happy to put our way to do this. Initially, we're looking at pockets of deprivation, to be totally honest. The Southwest has some big pockets because it's rural, it's isolated. It's also there are some towns down here that at some point in the past ended up having people shipped into because they weren't wanted up country, and because of that, there are higher levels of boys not finishing school, a higher level of male rough sleepers. There's quite a lot going on down in the Southwest. It's not this beautiful holiday place that as lots of places are. So we're primarily down in the Southwest. And if this one works out, which hopefully it was, we'll be looking to move towards the North Coast. Then ultimately, I think we're looking to the northeast of England as well, because again, there are pockets up there that need to be addressed. The plan is to try and roll it out, to make it a little bit wider.
Amazing.
It won't be all me.
You're busy, but
I'm busy. I think that might stretch me somewhat. But I'm currently putting together a manual of how this works from a tutor perspective, and why we do the things that we do, and how we set the room up to work for everybody. And so the manual will be there. So in the same way of the man shed, or it will be able to be rolled out. To say, look, you want to do it, get your funding. This is all the stuff, and we found this works really, really well, and then you crack on. I mean, I'm looking forward to the day when the guys I've got down in Morton that I can just pop in, every week, because they're running it themselves. They're just turning up and sewing and having a great time, or making, or having a brew, whatever, and just being able to pop in and out and see how everybody's getting on. That's my goal on that one.
That'd be a dream, yeah.
It really is. So, in fact, last week was the first week I left them on their own.
Oh.
Because I had a few things on at the weekend that were pre-booked before Thread Brothers came about. And, so a couple of them took some machines away with them, to use over the couple of weeks, because they didn't have machines at home that they're going to bring back to me, hopefully. They will. I know they will. So I'm excited to see how they got on.
So with the rolling out, that potential, hopefully, kind of almost franchising and rolling out of other groups around the country where funding can be acquired and stuff, is the plan to always make sure that the tutor is a male identifying person?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is.
Cool.
And the reason behind that, and something that was quite important for me, really, is when I started sewing, the route to sewing, for one reason and another, is very female-led, or female identifying-led. That's just something that's happened in history. It wasn't always that way, and essentially it was the other way around. Most of the stuff that was made in factories, Industrial Revolution, etc., before all the wars, was done by fellas, by blokes. Then they went to war, or they all died at the war, so then women got involved with doing it, and then that never changed since, has it? So those trades and skills are now deemed to be female skills. So for me, getting involved with sewing in the early stages, I never went to learn. I think that's probably why I'm self-taught, to be honest, and why it's because I, to be honest, felt intimidated going into a traditional sewing circle, sewing group, sewing workshop, whatever you want to call it. I know now that was a foolish thing, possibly, because I now feel like I found my people. I didn't know at the time, because it was just something I started to get involved in, and I was intimidated just because I didn't want to feel like that bloke walking into a sewing group expected to be the one that's going to start mansplaining, and all that. That's not me, but I didn't want, probably the way that I think as well, the fact that I would overthink that situation, and about walking into a room and expected to be the one that's anyway. So having spoken to other blokes at sewing shows, who I think we've talked before in the past, that you don't see many. Normally the only men that go to the sewing shows, when I talk about sewing shows, I'm on about the Stitch Festival, or Knit and Stitch, or Creative Crafts, or Stitching for All, or any one of those that happens all over the country. The only fellas that you tend to see there are bag carriers for one reason or another.
Or they're on a stand, or they're a seller.
Or they're a seller, and to be honest, if you're on a stand and you're a seller, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a maker.
No, exactly.
So it could just be your trade. So, which is great. But in regards to the actual makers, they're very few and far between, or they're very few and far between that attend shows. I mean, there are lots of makers that don't attend shows. That amazes me. Sure. Because shows are great.
I know.
They're just the best place. It's where you realise that, there are lots of other people like you. I mean, I just hope that there's going to be more that look like me soon, because there's a market.
Well, you're making that happen.
Yeah, there's a market there somewhere. Not for me, but for the industry. So yeah, it was. Having spoken to people at shows, it's like, they're just learning themselves in the back room. I mean, when I started sewing, my wife and kids weren't really. People say, "Oh, surely you used to make lots of things for your wife and kids." Well, no, I didn't, because sewing was just something that Dad did upstairs in the corner. That kept him out of the way.
Kept out of the way, yeah.
Kept him away. In the same way as some guys go to the garage and they do a bit of tinkering. It was just a thing. And doing it on your own, and you think, you don't realise there's a community out there. And I think by starting this kind of thing up and getting men sewing together, and then introducing them to the fact that there are other things out there and it's not that scary, it's worth going along to these things as well, or just looking at what else you could do as a male sewer to support other male sewers, really. And you don't have to be making clothes. You don't have to be making things for yourself. You don't have, I mean, bags are a huge, I'm making an absolutely massive, I'm pointing over there. You don't know what I'm looking at. This morning, I've just woke up and thought I'm going to make an absolutely massive bag. And I've got one, it's about a metre. It's about a metre long. And it's some really, my fingers are all black from the dye coming out. I'm not going to wash it because it's a bag.
Yeah, and you started doing the cycling caps, didn't you? That was one of your first things.
Exactly, yeah. Cycling, it's just about making things, just doing things. I mean, I sew the tarpaulins for my rabbits and things like that. It's just another tool to use, but it's when you get into it, it's a little bit addictive, isn't it? Really.
Oh, completely.
It's like your first one's free. It's one of those, isn't it? It's kind of.
So when you have been in the Thread Brothers space, have you either had or overheard conversations kind of addressing the kind of thing about how, generally speaking, sewing is quote unquote for female identifying people?
No, not at all. It's just what we're doing there. It's being in the present. It's what we're doing. It's not really thinking of who else does it, essentially, because we're just getting on with it together.
Yeah. I was just wondering if that's something that cropped up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't crop up, to be honest, which I like. I like
absolutely.
that. I like the fact that it's just, it's not thinking of, what will people think. The majority of the guys there don't have access to machines, but a couple do have access to machines, and they're their wives' machines, and they're scared to touch those because it's the wives' machine, and I don't know what's going to happen. They will break it, and this, that, and the other. But there isn't really much other talk about being worried about being known as a male sewer, essentially, which I like that. I think that's really quite important, because it is a barrier for a lot of people, because your stereotypical male sewer, it's not, I don't know, it's a difficult thing to say, really, or a male identifying sewer, sorry.
No, so use whatever language you prefer.
Yeah, it's difficult to say who that is or what they are. Because there isn't one, because it's not an underground movement, because I'm sure there's loads of us out there, and there are. It's just, but it's just difficult for lots of men to get involved in it, I think. But I think maybe it's an unconscious bias. I'm sure that there's a lot of that, to be totally honest. The fact that just it's in there and it's instilled that it's not something for you, that you've got to do something more masculine. But there are lots of younger people coming through now that have this idea of building a brand. And that's great. Unfortunately, they're doing it in the way of they're not making. They're just printing.
Sure.
They're just printing. They're finding that they're creating a logo through AI or Photoshop or whatever, and getting it printed onto garments. In fact, I was in London the weekend, and I was down on one of the markets, and there was a young lad there that has actually just started a brand, but he was making his stuff as well, making shirts and printing and embroidering, and it was fantastic. And I got chatting with him, and he told me not to steal any of his ideas. Can't promise that.
Babe, I've got my own ideas.
Yeah, I can't promise that, because he had some great ideas. But that was fantastic to see. But again, it's a younger generation coming up, and boys as well. Boys, young men, that are identifying that they can see, going back to the streetwear thing again, that they can see about brands, but they go through the printing first and then think, no, actually, I want to do something a little bit different to that.
I want more control over the silhouette and stuff
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
it. Yeah, yeah. Without knowing those words, that's something that they want. That's something that they want to do. And yeah, a couple of the younger fellas that we've got on our group, I think they want to look at making more things for themselves in that same way.
That's great. But this is the point I often come back to, like this kind of idea of like what is for men, what is for women. It serves no one, does it? Because, for example, like I've been wanting to get into doing some like woodwork stuff for freaking ages, beyond the fact that I don't really have the space. But it's like, how do you get into it? Like, I would love to go along to a men's shed, but I would feel like that is not the space for me, you know?
Yeah, that's exact. See, what we're talking about there is exactly the same thing, isn't it? And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense really, but there's something inside there that says, you wouldn't want to go to men's shed. I wouldn't want to go to Stitch and Bitch. You know, it's like one of those. It's the same kind of thing. It doesn't feel right. Not that it doesn't feel natural. That's the wrong terminology. But you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to infiltrate it almost.
Yeah, and also you like if they've got their thing going on, you don't want to then make them feel like uncomfortable. You know, because those spaces are important to people, and the ability to connect with people over your passion, as you say, those things that's really important. So you don't want to be like going in there like, oh hi, I'm here. What's going on? You know. But yeah, so in the end, my kind of gateway was I ended up taking a workshop last year to make a bench out of a pallet, but it was run specifically by a couple of women. They're called the main woman's called Salvage Sister, and she works out of a school in Brighton. And I had the best day of my life. I swear to God, I had the best day of my life. And these women were just so skilled, so talented, so knowledgeable. I was just absolutely in awe of them, and it was so funny because I felt like so inferior, but then they found out that the jumpsuit I was wearing I'd made, and they were like, whoa. So it was really interesting. I think like skills are skills, you know, however you've learned them, wherever you've learned them, and people, skilled and talented people recognize skill and talent in other people as well, don't they? So if we can just go over some of the stuff, but I had to enter into that through a female-led space in the similar way that your guys are kind of entering into this through a male-led space. And I think if we get to the same result where we then have skills and we feel confident, we're developing our knowledge and skills and confidence, it's cool. You know, these are great opportunities. Yeah,
it is. And unfortunately, I think, the whole division, male-female division, in like you said, it was easier to go to a female-led workshop group in the same way as it's easier to go to a male-led sewing group. But that gives you then that baseline of skills that you can then you don't feel like the newbie anymore. And you can hold your own, isn't it? It's almost, I don't know. I'm trying to think what else it would be similar to. Well, I suppose it's like any skill, really. You know, when you want to learn a skill, you do it on your own to start with, or with people just like you. I mean, just like you, be that male or female. You know, even down to that level, and then you then go into the wider world with it afterwards. It's a strange old thing, and I don't. It's a very difficult cycle to break, isn't it? And I don't know how. I'd love to know how. We all would, wouldn't we? We all would.
I think you were doing a lot to it. I think you were doing a lot to it. So it was interesting that you mentioned about the shows, because, I mean, as I say, that's the last couple of times I've seen you is at the big sewing shows in London at the Stitch Festival in Angel and the Knit Stitch in Alexandra Palace, when I can like just grab you for 2 seconds to give you a hug. But it can't, as we say, we can't be denied that the vast majority of the people attending those are women and female identifying people. And so it's interesting because I was thinking like, you've been going to those for a couple of years now, haven't you? And you said now that feels like your people. When you first started attending those events, did it always feel comfortable when you started going into those largely female spaces?
Did it feel comfortable? I think it did feel comfortable.
Are you like, I'm here, there's like a job to be done?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I make a point of visiting the shows as much as I can now, because for that, again, visibility thing, it's important to be there for me to talk to other blokes if I can, but also to talk to everybody else that.
So I have to say, if you go on the Knit and Stitch website right now, there's like a video and you're in half of it. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
If you go on the website, there's like automatically a video starts to play and it's all like, you know, snippets from the previous shows, and you were literally in half of it.
Yeah, do you know, I don't think I've ever signed anything with those guys or even talked about a media buyout. I should.
Okay.
But no, but that's not a problem. I think that's great and that's important, and that's why I get involved and that's why I get up on the stage. Most people that know me, have met me, know that my favourite subject is me. So I'm not shy about. I'm not shy about that. That hasn't always been the case. It's probably over the last few years it's got worse. No, better. But I never really found intimidated. I mean, for me, I hadn't been to any of the shows or knew of their existence, to be honest. Before, when I first started making things, it was just very much suck it and see. I wonder if I can do that. I wonder how that works. I think I can do that. Let's have a go. And it's still my thinking now. I don't know what I can't do. It's
well, you have a natural curiosity, which I think carries you forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, thank you. That's still the way that it works for me. So I didn't know anything about the shows, and it wasn't until Sewing Bee essentially that we met up as a group of 12 people before our series went out. We went to Stitch at the BDC, and that was my first introduction to it. And obviously it was great then because nobody knew who we were. I love that. And that's another reason why I go to the shows now, is because I'm always on the lookout for 12 people that look like they shouldn't be together.
You're like, that's the next cast.
That's the next cohort. That must be the next cohort, because I'm sure every year they do it. But anyway, so that was my first introduction. And since then, it's just been, I just wanted to go just to keep on. I mean, because the community itself, if not the other makers and the sewers that you see there that you recognise from previous years, but it's also the tradespeople, the companies, the fabric companies. Yeah, everyone's just so lovely. And that's the place to just, be with your people for a while and just geek out. To me, I still love riding my bikes. I still go to the pub on a Friday for an hour. I kind of, my peer group talk about beer and bikes. We don't talk about sewing. So if I get the opportunity to talk about sewing, I speed up, I get all excited, it's kind of, and that's where I get to do most of that. That and another reason why I do lots of workshops as well.
Nice. So do you think that actually not being what many would think of as your average sewing event attendee or sewing teacher or sewing content creator do you think that's ever actually kind of like worked in your favor as such, like maybe helping you stand out?
Yeah, most definitely. That goes without saying. I mean, today everything's about, I don't have a business making things. I don't sell patterns myself. I do workshops, and I do that because I love geeking out about sewing with 6 to 8 different people making the same thing. That's why I do those. I do WI talks. I haven't got a product to sell essentially, but I do like, and the content that I do is indicative of what I make, and I do content because I know at some point I'm not going to be able to remember everything about my life, and it'd be nice to have something to look back on.
Same, absolute same.
Almost as a playbook of my life,
Totally. Literally a couple of episodes ago, someone was like, "So what have you been making recently?" Like, I don't remember. I have to go and look at my Instagram. Like, I don't know what I've made recently.
That's kind of the content, and off the back of the content that I create, I've been lucky enough that brands have got in touch with me, and they wouldn't have got in touch with me unless I had a niche. And my niche is I'm a male sewer that is known within the sewing community. And one of the things about when I went on the Sewing Bee, and anybody that's heard me talk will have heard this line before, but when I said to my wife about going on to the Sewing Bee, she said, "Well, yeah, you should definitely apply because you'll definitely get on." And I said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well," I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, look, you dress like an adult toddler, and there isn't anybody else that looks like you that makes that we know of." And that's still kind of the same, really.
That's your brand.
That's my brand, and I'll own it. I don't care. That is me. I like to wear what I like to wear. I don't really care if it upsets anybody else. I'm happy to make it as well. And it brings me joy, and if it brings other people joy, then that's great as well. I've got a great community on my socials. I'm really, really lucky with all the people that I've got out there, really supportive. And that's down to my niche, I'm sure. And it's all about a niche. Apparently, I don't know much about it, but apparently it's about having a niche. So it's kind of...
Everyone's like, what's my niche? I don't know. Yeah. Well, yeah, completely.
It is. It's your niche. I mean, and it's important to have a niche because then other people can see you. It's that be it, see it thing, isn't it? And it's not necessarily in this fantastic diverse world that we've got and that we love to live in, particularly in this country with the diversity that we've got. you have to be able to see somebody to give you that idea that maybe you could do it as well.
Got to see it to be it.
See it to be it, and that's what it's all about. I mean, the producers and the casting producers on the Sewing Bee do an absolutely fantastic job every single year by getting a great mix of people. And I say to anybody and everybody, like me, if you're thinking about applying, apply. You should apply. They go, oh, they would never need me. Well, you never know which year that they do need you, when you will slot into that gap whether they haven't filled yet. I mean, as sewers on the Sewing Bee, we kind of joke the fact that it's like a government poll, that there's a tick box. I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one. In fact, on our year, I think we made that list up ourselves and ticked it all off.
Oh, that's so funny. I'd secretly low-key love to see that list.
Yeah, no one can see that because I think it will probably get us all cancelled.
Yeah, completely. But I'd love to see it.
But yeah, so they do a fantastic job. And again, that's that thing. Just if you can see people doing it, then that would hopefully encourage other people. And I have met people that have said that to me, and it fills my heart completely when they say, I hadn't even thought about it. But then, and it normally starts with the precursor of my wife was watching this program.
Right.
And it's always the same. My wife was watching this thing, and now I'm really into it. But having a niche is important, really. Because we're not all vanilla, are we? We need to be as diverse as we possibly can, and that's not just diverse in race, creed, colour, gender, but also age as well. Because age is a huge thing. People do write you off as you get older, or can do. You become a little old lady or the funny old man. That's
and you're a bit invisible.
Yeah, that little old lady and that funny old man have got such experience that you will never, ever, ever attain.
And some of the best stories you'll ever hear, probably.
Go and ask them. You'll be shocked. They'll tell you about when they were dancing in the 90s.
Yeah.
when they were waiting for a text message to go to a party at 3 a.m. in the morning. Just things like that. It's like, you need to encompass everything.
Before phones, how did we do it? You made a plan, you stuck to it, didn't you?
You stuck to your plan, yeah. You waited at a petrol station until that other car turned up and said, right, follow me.
Could be waiting an hour. Could easily be waiting an hour, and we just dug in. That's what's happening. Yeah,
that's what's happening tonight.
So I was going to ask you, are there any other kind of stereotypes that you're hoping or actively trying to bust around sewing? Yeah, so do you want to expand a bit more about age?
Well, no, I think luckily the generation that I'm in are probably the first generation that are holding on to their youth a little bit longer than previous generations. I mean, I look at my parents; they tend to slipped into an area of conformity. And I looked at my grandparents' generation, where they were still wearing nice dresses or shirt and tie or suits every day, and then my mum and dad it was a little bit more diluted, but dad still had a pair of slacks on and a jumper and a shirt with a collar. And then where our generation is now, I think that we're the first generation that have held on to our youth a little bit more. Like I said, I'm stuck in the 90s, and I know lots of people that are similar. They're still, they're wandering down the street in a pair of big-ish jeans and a pair of Vans and this, that, we're holding on to it for longer, which I think is
it's all fantastic. About the trainers. It's all about the trainers.
It is all about the trainers. Yeah, shoes are my downfall. They really are. I am terrible. I have made shoes, but I can't make the shoes that I want to buy. My house is awful. I've got so many shoes.
That's another thing. That's a whole other topic.
And hopefully younger generations will see that and they can just carry on through as well. And don't look at us. I'm going to do a big general as some silly old folks trying to, look like mutton dressed as lamb.
It's like, no, we've always looked like this.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's I'm going to show you a photo. Look, exactly the same clothes.
Just a bit more grey.
A lot more grey. I know. So yeah, the age thing I think is just. I don't like that. And I said the same phrase again: the little old lady and the funny old man. I despise that because I've kind of often said to myself as I get older, I don't mind. I'm going to be an old man, but I want to be that old man. I want to be that. I want to be.
You want to be you
as
an old man.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be me as an old man. In the same way, so age for me is, and being a maker, which is another important thing, is that you can just keep looking like you want to look, dress as you want to look, get the joy from the clothes that you want to make, and just keep going with it.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I have more questions, but I think I want to wrap it up there because that is perfect. Okay, so can you tell us where we can find you and follow you, please?
Yes, you can. For those that don't follow me on Instagram at tonyr.maker, you're missing a trick there. I My website is www.menmakers.co.uk. That's kind of just like a catch-all where you can get in touch with me through a contact form and tells you where I'm up to and where I'm at. My calendar's on there as well. A bit later on in the year, I'm going to be at Exeter at the Craft for Crafters Festival, where myself and Asma and Fove will be doing quite a lot of work there. I might even be having a men's creche, which I'm kind of...
Oh my God, yes!
Which I'm going to try and hopefully set up so that people can leave their men with me, and I can show them how to do some bit of sewing.
Oh my God, this is the best thing. Okay.
So that I'm hopefully, I mean, that's something we're talking about, and I'm hopefully going to do that because that's something I'm really keen to do. So yeah, otherwise I'm going to be at normal shows. I'm going to be at Business Design Centre. I'm going to be at Ali Pali. I've got some workshops at Ali Pali this year as well. We're doing the Come Fly With Me zip, which is just an introduction to really simple zips. Yeah, and anywhere you see a bloke in a woolly hat at a sewing show, it's going to be me, innit?
It's going to be you. Unless you created so many clones at this point that it's
true,
like, where's Wally? Which one is the actual Tony? Amazing. Well, I will grab you and force you to give me a hug at Alexandra Palace in October. Thank you so much for your time. Let's have another chat in another couple of years when you've done some more amazing things.
Why not?
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you, Zoe. Right. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!